Hello, everyone. I am Corey Andrew. This is the Motivational Mondays podcast, and I'm so happy to be joined today by Connor McKemey. Now, at just 13 years old, Connor faced a life-altering event that left him with third-degree burns covering 90% of his body. Now, given less than a 1% chance of survival, he defied those odds and not only survived, but he has thrived beyond. Now, he's a living testament to the power of resilience, determination, and the human spirit. Connor, welcome to Motivational Mondays.
Thank you for having me, Corey. It's a pleasure to be here.
Excellent. Well, we are happy you're here too. And, as I mentioned in the intro to give a little backstory, I guess no one, of course, could tell it like you can about that moment of your life that was forever changed by this fire incident. So, with that given, how did you find the strength to overcome such, I guess, immense adversity that many may not have been able to do?
I mean, I would be the first to say it always started with, that core community, family, and just, the warmth and strength of so many people that surrounded me, right? I mean, that was without a doubt the lowest point in my life. But, something like that doesn't just affect me, it affects my family, my friends, the community around us, and just the strength in the way that all these people rallied around me. When I finally woke up, I was in a medically induced coma for a couple of months while they did surgeries. And I wake up and I see all the letters and the notes and just, all the support. It was like, all right, like I'm not doing this on my own. I have the
Mm,
strength of so many people, supporting me. And that kind of kicked me in gear. It was really easy to feel sorry for myself. And I took the time like anybody else would. And you ask those questions. Why did this happen to me? What's my future going to look like? But when I looked around and I saw how much it meant to so many other people to see me trying to get better, that just lit something in me. And
mm,
from that moment on, it was like, all right, like I'm going to try everything I can to just do something each and every day to get a little bit closer to where I
mm,
was,
mm.
and not get too far ahead of myself or put like time constraints on it, right? Because nobody knew what the future was going to hold. It was like, look, let's just try to get a little bit better each and every day. And eventually, I felt like we would get to where we wanted to go. And for me, it was I couldn't have done it without so many people like supporting me and giving me that strength when I didn't have it.
Mm.
The amount of surgeries, the constant, rehab and putting in all that work and that pain and that time. It was like if I felt like I was isolated and I had to do that on my own, then it probably would have crushed me.
Mm.
But I needed the strength of so many people around me, my parents, my brothers, my friends, the community, the doctors, all these people that like give you that strength when you feel like you're tapped out. It was like
Mhm.
they gave me that little extra to keep going, to keep waking up, to keep trying. And what I get to do now when I spread messages, I always am taking those people with me and reminding everyone that it's like you're not alone in this journey.
Why I think that's even more important than just what it did for you in that realization. It also is a message to the community, to all of us, to people who have to be the support for someone who's gone through something very devastating that way. And it reminds me of last week, I or 2 weeks ago, I interviewed a guest who had lost his leg to bone marrow cancer when he was like 16. So he had gone through something very similar at a young age and having to now adjust. And on the opposite side of that, he had a lot of the people saying to him, well, you're never going to be able to do this again. And you're not going to be able to do that again. And so you better prepare for it. And so he had this whole mantra of like, who says I can't? And that became his moniker of how he's so successful today. So did you have any of, I mean, you had the support, I know, but were there any people who sort of tried to prepare you for maybe life being not what it was? And then in that regard, they may have almost discouraged you without realizing.
Yeah, I mean, listen, the medical staff, the doctors, the surgeons are always going to be upfront and try to, paint the picture for you. And mine was like, look, this was a severe burn. You're definitely lucky to be here, but your life going forward is going to be completely different. And, that was definitely a tough pill to swallow. I
Mm,
mean, I was an athletic kid. I love playing sports. And that was one of the things they're like, you're not going to do that. Like, you can't, you need to focus on just trying to learn how to walk, trying to learn how to
right.
like tie your shoes, get dressed. They're like, try to limit your expectations a little bit. And I think being young, I can relate to his mindset where it was like, why can't I? Right?
Mhm.
Like you feel like there's so much future ahead of you. I'm like, look, I'll figure it out. It might
Right.
not be easy. It might not, be the traditional way or the way that I used to do it, but I could figure something out to get
Hmm.
back to walking, to get back to moving. And for me, the earliest thing was like, I wanted to get back to just like playing hoops in the driveway with my brothers, throwing the football, the small little things.
Hmm.
I was like, if I could do that, then maybe I can go and play sports again. Then maybe I can take that next step. But yeah, there was definitely people, especially when I got out of the hospital, that didn't really want to work with me because I was so ambitious. Like I wanted, I was walking around and I was doing these things, but like I wanted to learn how to run. I wanted to learn how to get stronger and lift weights and take what was a 6'2", 130-pound frame and like put meat on the bone and
Right.
build up some strength and like be able to compete. And I finally had this trainer in Charlotte, Chip Sigmund, who was like, look, I'm going to train him like an athlete that needs to get bigger, faster, stronger. And when I had, like, that's why I always lean back on that belief of others, right? Like I had no, 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 no. Finally, somebody was like, look, I'll take on the challenge. Like
Hmm.
if he's as ambitious, I'll meet him there.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
again, that was like, took us to the next step, and he helped me get back to playing high school and eventually college across. And like I owe him, the world to that, because in a world where people didn't want to didn't want me to feel like I failed or wasn't going to meet my goals, he was like, look, we're going to try. And if we don't get there, we don't get there. But like, we're
Right.
going to at least try.
Hmm. Yeah, and it's important too to mention that many people, they don't mean to be discouraging. They're really protective.
Hmm.
They love you and they don't want to give you false hope. And so you can understand, obviously, I guess, why they do it. But it's in the instance of the gentleman who I mentioned, same thing. He loved to ski, and so he's like, now I have one leg. How do I do that? So he like figured it out and like kind of rigged up his own sort of ski thing, so
Yeah.
he could do it. And then that was the catalyst for him getting back to other things. And so I love that you mentioned sometimes it's the incremental steps that get you back to your full capacity if you just have a strategy.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it was like, all right, look, I had these big dreams or goals, right? Getting back to playing sports again, getting back to, living a normal life. Um, but I knew, again, it wasn't going to happen tomorrow, right?
Mhm.
I wasn't going to be able to just wake up and everything just disappear and be there. And I think early on it was frustrating because you are so caught up in what you lost and what you weren't, able to do, that I had to change my mindset from like, look, let's just take the little victories each and every day and like make that be what keeps us going. Not,
Mhm.
hey, I can't walk. Hey, I can't run. Hey, I can't tie my shoes. It's like, look, I stood up today. Like that
Mhm.
was first. I hadn't been able to do that before. And then when I finally did take a step, it was like, look, I took a step. Now let's try to take two tomorrow and four. And when you get that ball of momentum rolling, like it goes, and it's a powerful
Mhm.
thing.
Yeah, and when I talk to people like yourself who are successful, who've been through serious adversity, I often find that even nuggets like that are very specific to you, they translate well into everyday life for everyday people. I mean, that's just what you just said is such a metaphor. Like if you wake up in the morning and you're like, well, first I'm here, so that's good. Let's start with the
Hmm.
easy stuff, and I'm going to get out of bed, and I can do that, and it's one step at a time, and take life that way as well, so you don't sort of um, try to move too fast and miss the journey. And I know for you,
Hmm.
your journey has a lot to do with the positive mindset and resilience. So when it comes to that mental resilience, I know is something that you really talk a lot about. What's your take on the correlation between mental resilience and being a productive person who can thrive in society?
So when I get asked like what to me made the biggest difference in my recovery and my journey, it was without a doubt like my belief in the power of the mind, right? And like the little things that we can control in our mindset and our perspective that truly make the biggest difference, right?
Mhm.
Like in a small way, people could look at it as like a cup half full versus half empty. But for me, it's just all the little mini battles in ways that we view things, like by just altering it and changing our perspective by just a little bit, like completely changes our battle, right? And like there's so many times where we're caught up in, again, all these things that we couldn't control that happened in our lives, that instead
Mhm.
it's like, all right, look, why don't I focus on how I react to it? instead of everything, piling on. It's like, look, this is another battle. And if I feel like I have the tools to get through it, then like I have to have a little bit more belief in myself. Right. And so for me, it was just every time I was faced with some doubt, some anxiety, some fear, it's like, how can we flip it and find some kind of nugget, find some kind of silver lining or some kind of positivity out of it? Because again, like I have always believed that as long as we have some air in our lungs and be in our chest, like you said, just waking up like that gives us an opportunity to fight. It gives us an opportunity to change that outcome. I think where we get discouraged and often where we hit a wall is when we're so focused on the result aspect. When it's like, look, we're not always going to win every single time, but there can be a learning opportunity from there. There can be a future adjustment from there that like helps us when we go to that next battle and that next problem.
Hmm.
And so I try so hard to, I have my bad days, we all do, but it's like, can I find, something that like flips the switch? Could it be a
Hmm.
song? Could it be a conversation with a loved one? Could it be reading an article, listening to a podcast? Like there's so many various types of media and human interactions that we can do that can completely just change in a positive way. And for me, yeah, I'm going to look at a cup as half full, more than half empty. I'm always
Hmm.
going to try to find, the brighter side of life. But again, those are the battles that we have to face, and some are easier than others. But by just changing our perspective by a degree, and trying to sometimes take a step back and look at the picture and try to focus on again, what can I control versus what is happening to me that's out of my control,
Hmm.
then that's the start, and that's the start to change. And for me, I always try to say my messages and what I speak on is being a positive but a productive person. Like I want stuff to be actionable. I want, to see and have people look at the situations and make that change for themselves in a positive way that ends up being productive in the long run.
Hmm. Wow. When I hear you say those words as well are something I've heard from successful people who've overcome not just like a normal adversity, like, that we all maybe go through, but some really very specific things. And one of them was a woman named Jennifer Kaufman, who was a survivor of the Boston marathon bombing. And what you just said reminds me of something that she said because her whole life changed and not in a negative way in the long run. She actually looks at this horrible incident now as a gift that gave her things that she might not have had otherwise. So she says things that you think are happening to you sometimes are actually happening for you. And it have that sort of same ring to it. And with that, I want to ask you, I know when it comes to the residuals of what happened in your case, you have scars that you view as a symbol of survival and you see them as such now. So can you share like what shifted your perspective and embrace something that was negative into, hey, this is part of my brand, my story, who I am?
Yeah, I mean, so for me, it like I can relate to her story in the fact that early on, I probably wouldn't have viewed what happened to me as like the best thing ever,
Right.
and in so many ways, this has given me and opened up doors in my life and given me a perspective on life that I would have never had before. And I think that's where we see eye to eye. As far as the scarring goes, like in so many different ways, I probably have it a lot easier than so many other people out there. You can
Hmm.
see me and see the visible scarring on me and know that look, he's been through something traumatic. And for me, I flip that on its head and I try to walk around with a smile and spreading positivity. So when you see that, it helps you, but everybody's dealing with battles internally that they can't see, and some of the
That's right.
happiest people in the world like are struggling deeply inside. And so for me to have an opportunity to stand up on stage or stand up on forums or be on a podcast like this and say like my scars aren't what define me, but it tells a journey. And if you use it as a symbol of strength instead of a symbol of weakness and understand, look, we're all battling something visible or internal. And when you approach life with that perspective, you're going to be a lot more appreciative of people. You're going to start approaching people with a little bit more kindness and a little bit more warmth, because I'm not trying to pile on to somebody's, stuff. I don't know what's going on in everybody's head and everybody's heart, but
Hmm.
like I want to try to help. And if
Yeah.
by just walking around and spreading some positivity and warmth is going to put a smile on somebody's face, and like that's what I want to do, and that's all I've ever wanted to do. And I'm incredibly lucky to be here and share a message. And until my time is up here, like I want to continue to spread a positive message and understand that, look, like we are all incredibly special people in our own way, but our scars don't define us. My scars don't define me. But
Mhm.
again, when we're together, when we're using this unity, and we start focusing on what we can do to build each other up instead of break each other down, it makes life easier for everyone.
Yeah. And also, again, those kinds of words of advice actually, again, they really help, or they should help the public, because nine times out of 10, again, it's the public reacting to people they see who look different. It's the public, trying to explain to a child who may not be the most, sort of not obvious when he's asking mommy what's wrong with why that person walks this
Mhm.
way, or and we don't know how to explain it, and so instead we sort of like, don't talk, don't look over there, and and that's not what a person wants. They want to actually say, hey, that's just, I'm normal, how about you, how you doing today?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I listen, like especially with what I do, traveling and being in, airports and public places, like, of course, you're going to get stares. You're going to have people look at you. You're going to even have people come up and ask, like, hey, what happened?
Hmm.
And that's why for me, like, I try so hard, no matter what mood I'm in, it's like, look, put your shoulders back, puff out your chest a little bit, put a smile on, and let people know when they're staring at you, like, you're okay. Because I am. I got a great group of friends. I got a great family. I have a lot of things in my life that I am incredibly blessed for, and so I shouldn't feel ashamed of the way that I look, and I don't. I'm
Hmm.
proud of who I am and what I've been through. And again, I use this saying. I use it in my speeches, but it's like it's viewing yourself as the hottest person in the room. Like my mindset is like, there's, unless I'm in a like a burn survivor community and there's somebody burned 90% or more, like I am actually the hottest dude there. Like nobody's been in the flame longer. No, nobody's as hot. You know what I'm saying? Like I actually am. And so when you have that, like, again, change of perspective, and it's like, look, like, be proud of who you are, man. What you are is unique, and like you shouldn't be trying to compare yourself to anybody else. I have a
Right.
blessing because I don't get to, right? Like I am who I am, and I know I stand out, but like instead of that being a curse, it's a blessing. Like
Hmm.
that gives me the ability to put smiles on people's faces, make people change, hopefully for the better. And like, yeah, it's the best thing. It's probably one of the best things about me.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. And it's, again, similarities. The gentleman who I mentioned who had the cancer, he says he goes swimming and he'll see a little child at the pool, and the little boy will very loudly just yell, Mommy, that man has one leg. And he'll come up for air and go, but I have perfect hearing though. My ears are fine.
Yeah.
And then he'll go over and it breaks the ice, and the kid can
Yeah.
say, what happened to your leg? But you're right. And I think that's a lesson too for all of us, no matter what we're doing, what we're going through, how we make others feel is also sort of, to a degree, our responsibility as well. We have to take some responsibility for that too. And how we react to things. People are curious. And so, trying to remember that and not maybe be angry, but it's all in people's approach too. So, like you said,
Hmm.
some people walk up to you and they want to ask you, and there's got to be a respect there as well from the public when they ask people what you've been through. And so it's a balance between both parties. Hopefully, conversations like this
Yeah.
help us navigate that a little better.
I mean, 100%. And look,
Mhm.
I'm always going to be appreciative of somebody coming up because I know it's hard. Like, I don't know if I was in their shoes, if I would do the same thing,
Mhm.
but instead of having people stare at you or, um, any of that, it's like it at least starts a conversation, and then that helps get the ball rolling. And sometimes you make some great relationships that way by just like
Mhm.
running into somebody or meeting somebody randomly.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we've spent enough time, I guess, talking about that part of your life. I would love to talk about the Division I college lacrosse, and the role that's
Yeah.
played in your life and continues to play in your life. So you began to play Division I college lacrosse, and that's an incredible achievement considering where you had been from the accident. So now you're a coach as well of an elite university team. So how does those experiences relate to when you're dealing with your players?
So I used to coach. I played and coached at the university for a long, long time now, with my businessman mentality and speaking. Like that has been
That's your
my
main thing.
my main thing. But like so much of what I talk about, the leadership development, the way we handle, growing up and dealing with young adolescent, athletes and human beings, like all of these things I learned from being a part of the High Point University and the program with Coach Torpy. Like it was almost reaffirming everything that I believed in that like helped me get to where I wanted to go. I walk in there and it's like quotes about getting better every day and never taking things for granted, being excited to be there. Like all these things were just so in line with who I was and what I
Mm,
believed in. And then I got to see over the course of 8 years like how it affected perfectly able kids that again have so many other things going on in their lives that you don't even get to see on the surface.
yep.
Kids dealing with losing family members and brothers and sisters, moms and dads, all like what happens, and it's sad. And you watch these kids grow up at from 18 who they didn't know where they wanted to go or what they were going to do, and then when they leave there at 22, 23, as young men or young professionals, like taking that next step, uh, that's what really fueled me to want to go and do what I do now.
Mm,
Like seeing the impact we had. I loved being on the sidelines and winning games and being a part of upsets and championships. Like, yeah, that's one of the best things about sports. But watching the development of kids, over 3, 4 years, and like the impact that you get to have on them, at that time in their lives when a lot of them it's the first time they left from home. I mean, I remember it, the same thing for me. Like I'd been in this community for my whole life, and I go to this new school not knowing a lot of people, and just like how they embraced me, it was stuff that I wanted to carry on and continue to do. And
hmm
and again, I knew how important it was to have community. I talked about it at the very beginning, and like that's what I've always wanted to continue to build and pass on. Like I know how important it is to have strength in numbers, to have people that you can rely on your worst of times. And that place had always given me that and continues to give me that. And like again, I owe so much to what I do, from my experiences of being on the sidelines, getting my butt kicked, like all like winning and losing, like all those things help you grow. And man, it's one of the most special places, and it was really, really hard for me to walk away when I did. But I know like what I do now, being able to talk to the youth, primarily I talk to high schools, middle schools, colleges, like you hope you have an impact, but like you get to provide a message that you wish you had.
mm, yeah.
And I think to me, that's like the most special thing is like I'm taking all these little tidbits of information and life lessons that I got from coaches, from parents, from, all these people in my life. And like I'm just passing along their stories. And, with my platform, I have the ability to do that. And it's so special to me because it's not just like my thoughts and my dreams, right? It's all these people intertwined that like help me become who I am. Like I'm sharing their same beliefs and stories as well.
Mm. So that made me want to randomly just ask you, did you watch Ted Lasso?
Oh, like, hold on. Let me grab. I don't know if you have video, if we
Yeah.
do video, but
We,
I have a
oh, you have.
Ted Lasso on my little stand. Yes,
Yeah, you
absolutely,
that's listen,
absolutely.
you just gave a Ted Lasso speech, just so you know, my friend. And I was like glued to
Yeah.
every word. So that's why I figured you must have been a Ted Lasso fan. It's a great show. Absolutely.
Oh, it's so good. It's
Well,
so funny. Yeah, I talk about it like I use his stuff in my speeches
hmm
exactly. It's so in line with what I believe. And I mean, not to go too far off track, but like the last, he talks so much about belief in that show. And when we were talking earlier about like the catalyst, the stuff that made the most, changes in my life and allowed me to approach it was having belief, right?
mm,
Like even at the lowest points and the smallest doses, it was like just having a little bit of belief and hope, like kept me going. And I know how important it is to keep that going in all of us. And so, yeah, when I watched that show, I was like, this is gold to me.
yeah.
This is gold.
Yeah, it's amazing. And I'm not really really a big sports person. So I had avoided the show for a long time because I didn't know, I kept hearing about this show. So, oh, it's a show about, British football. I'm like, well, that's pretty much
Yeah.
my thing. So I sat down. I was
Yeah.
like, this is not what this show is about at all, really, if you think
Right.
about it.
No.
Well, that's great. I love that you make that correlation. And that's a great segue as well when you talk about strength and courage from the sidelines, because I know that when you do your talks and you do talk to young people and everyone, but not just young people, but corporations or individuals, the messages that you leave about strength and courage, they resonate with the audiences long after. So I do wonder, do you have any sort of one encounter maybe that was like a particular feedback that someone came to you and who you really did change their life and made a big impact?
Yeah, this one actually happened last fall, and this one is like always stuck with me, and I continue to try to share this because it was the cool, like probably the most powerful thing of what I have done. And so I was talking to all the freshmen at High Point University. They do this big president seminar, and so you get to go up there, and it's been cool for me because I was one of those kids sitting in there as a freshman watching, Dr. Cobain and all these speakers do their thing, and
Hmm.
I never thought I would be up on that stage, but I get to go up there and I get to do my thing. And at the end, you have kids come up to you and just thank you or shake your hand or whatever. And I had this young lady come up and just say, hey, like, I want you to know, she was in tears. She's like, I've been struggling for a long, long time. And like, I've been on the brink of ending things. And she was
Mm,
like, today helped me realize like how much more my life is worth. And like, I mean, it brought me to tears because like, that's what you want to do, right? Like I got into this industry to not try to make millions of dollars and sell tons of books and like make a business out of it. It was like I want to change lives. I want to be a positive impact on other people. And um my message has always been if I can impact one person in every crowd I go to, or anytime somebody listens to an article, or I mean, a podcast or reads an article, if it changes and impacts one life, then we're doing what we're supposed to be doing.
mm,
And to have her say that, and to now stay in contact and know that like she is doing well and she's kicking butt and living her life to the fullest like that. Again, you can't put that in words really, other than just how much it meant to me to know that like we're on the right path, we're doing
mm.
the right thing.
We're really happy for you here. And again, we're happy that you shared your story with us today, because one of the main things we always try to push is that we all can overcome things if we have the right mindset, the right community around us. And you've reaffirmed all those points today. So we appreciate you being here today, Mr. Connor McKemey. Thank you so much for being here today on Motivational Mondays.
Thank you so much, Corey. I appreciate being a part of it.